Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Cafe, and on my immediate left, we have Miss Andrejka Coklyat. And she is the guest on the cafe today. And through the magic of green screen technology, we're at a castle, right?
Someplace in Europe.
Yeah, I don't know where in Europe, so we'll just use our imagination. Isn't that a beautiful backdrop?
I loved it. Yeah, it has like a lot of detail to it. It's like there's like this curved window, castle-y kind of quality.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. You know, we can use our imagination because on the cafe, we've never been in front of a castle before.
Yeah, well, I was.
No, I'm talking about as far as this show. So
right.
Really,
Well, cool. So we're going
I
to
think
new
it's-
places.
Yeah, new places. Yeah, it's always nice to have new places. But go ahead, you were saying.
Well, I went to Yugoslavia, and so there was this 14th century, I guess, wall battlement.
Okay.
It was like 14 feet thick. So.
Well,
it's crazy.
Okay. Well, we can pretend we're in Yugoslavia if you want.
Right,
and, you know.
yeah.
But it is a beautiful backdrop, and through the magic of green screen technology, especially for the television audience watching, for the last, well, not even a year, we've been putting ourselves on different backdrops of television shows, movies, scenery, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just such a delight. It really is.
Totally.
Now, you know, when I first did this show, I had just those two brick walls and a table.
Mm-hmm.
How this whole thing came about, I was doing that Lawrence Welk show I told you about, and we had 3 hours filming time left with the co-hostess I had at the time, the lady that did the ballerina.
Right.
And so I just said, well, let's just do a promo since we're doing this new Lawrence Welk show, and I just blurted out, "Welcome to Asaph Cafe."
Mm-hmm.
When we did the promo. So when we had the 3 hours filming time, we just, hey, let's just do an Asaph Cafe. We already had it set up with the two brick walls. That's how the show got started.
Uh-huh. And so how long did it take for the show to kind of take off? Like where you kind of...
It started taking off within the first 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Because, see, at that time, what I would do is instead of inviting a guest, I used to walk down the streets of downtown and just recruit somebody. And it worked for a while, but after a while, it started getting more difficult to do that, so I had to start inviting folks.
Yeah.
And when I first did this show, I thought, oh man, no one is going to want to watch a show about this guy just having impromptu conversation and playing that Sinatra dinner music.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was going to work at all, and it did. People started watching,
Wow.
even in the primitive stage, and then people started contacting me, can I be on the show, can I be on the show? And it just kind of grew.
Uh-huh.
So
Well,
3.5 years later, we're doing the green screen technology now.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's the art of conversation. That's kind of what it seems like you're kind of bringing back.
Yeah. Just impromptu.
Right. Yeah. Spontaneous conversation. And like, there's no smartphones.
No.
Nobody's checking their cell phones.
We usually tell them to turn it off during the show, you know.
Yeah.
I think it can go at least an hour without it, you know.
You know, well, like, I noticed, like, we jumped the shark as a culture. I think it was like 2004, 2005. I was at a dance club.
Okay.
And somebody was in the middle of the dance floor checking their notifications. Like
Really?
in the middle of the dance floor.
In
Like,
the middle of a dance?
I mean, yeah, well, the dance floor.
Okay,
and
I got
I'm
it.
like, you know, you can't go off to the side and check your phone. You have to be in the middle of the dance. I mean, and then it was like a few years ago here in Missoula. I was at the VFW.
Okay.
And somebody was singing, and they were checking their phone as they were singing on stage. And I'm like, is this real? Like, but there we go.
That's a sign of our time, I think.
I think so. And like, I noticed like people are on their phone, they're walking their dog, and the dog is looking to make eye contact with them.
Yeah.
And the person's on their phone, not to mention people's kids, you know,
We've gotten a little spoiled, I think.
I think it's different than spoiled. I think we're being controlled by machines.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that too, but I mean, not to that degree, you know. At home.
Well, yeah, I mean, I surf the net myself,
Yeah.
but if I'm interacting with people, I think, like, I want to interact with people rather than have this phone.
Let them have your attention, you know.
Right, yeah.
So if I'm like entertaining someone at home, I'm not gonna be sitting cell phone doing that's kind of rude, you know. That sort of thing.
Well, it's sort of like reading a book. Like
Yeah.
before phones came out, it was rude to like read a book right in front of somebody.
Mhm.
But now it's like the cultural norm. You're reading your, notifications.
Yeah.
Oh, Chariots of Fire.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that song. Yeah. I never saw that movie, I don't think.
I can tell you the synopsis of it. I have not seen it either.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've seen enough that I have a pretty good idea.
Yeah. It's like, was it a bicycle race or a
No, Olympic runner.
runner?
I'll play this for you. It's kind of hard to get the action you want on these electronic instruments. You know?
So this doesn't have to be tuned then?
No,
Okay.
but the action is stiff
Yeah.
as far as the keys.
If it was like $1 million one, though, you
Yeah,
know, you
but
probably
there's no
you're
such
right.
animal though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I bet there's like, like Elton John or whatever. I bet,
Well,
probably-
actually, okay, if you go to a real concert like an Elton John concert, they're
Mhm.
not likely to use electronic keyboards. They're probably going to be using real pianos in the background. And the reason for that, the problem I have with these electronic keyboards is two factors. The distance between the black notes, the black notes on the instrument,
Right. Mm-hmm.
they're not always the same accurately as a real piano, like those
Really?
Casio keyboards and things like that.
Uh-huh.
The
It's
black
made to
notes
just
are
fit or something?
condensed, see,
Ah.
closer together, and you can develop some pretty bad habits if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people it's better to get a spinet piano, a little tiny piano, or and just get the actual size of the black keys.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I frown on that, because once you develop a bad habit in piano playing,
Mhm.
it's very difficult to correct.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Usually, what some piano teachers will tell you may have heard this. If you've learned a classical piece and you just didn't learn it properly, they'll tell you not to play it for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think about it.
Right.
Don't for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that takes
You got
discipline.
to kill those neuro.
Yeah,
pathways.
you might want to be messing around. They'll tell, don't play that song for 6 months, and 6 months later you beat them forgot. Then they can correct it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just food for thought.
Do you play? Do you teach?
I don't teach anymore. I used to.
Mhm.
In fact, I did student teaching
Mm-hmm.
right after high school, before I went to the conservatory at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew then I didn't want to be a teacher for the rest of my
Really?
life.
What was it like?
Yeah.
What was it like teaching kids?
Oh,
yeah.
I disliked it something horrible.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't like teaching children and stuff.
Yeah.
How can I put it? Oh, I just have to be blunt. Especially nowadays, kids are very difficult to work with.
Mm?
You
They're
know,
kids, yeah.
they're kids,
Right.
and they don't have that maturity like an adult.
Hmm.
Kids can be blunt and blurt things out and say things about the teacher they don't like.
Yeah.
I've had that happen. They used to scratch my name on the music stands, how much they disliked me and stuff.
Aw.
And I was just a student A.
Right.
I wasn't even the teacher. I was just the assistant, and I
Yeah.
got targeted.
What about teaching adults? Have you taught?
I have, but I haven't done it in a while. But
Mhm.
I'm selective who I give lessons to. And I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Because getting back to not wanting to be a teacher, it's hard to go like say 5 band classes a day, 5 days a week, spewing out all the information that people are never going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to grow up and they're going to take different interests and things like that, and it's
Right.
like throwing stuff at the wind.
Right.
And it would
Pearls
be more-
before swine.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't put it that way, but yeah, you're right. And I would rather have someone that I'm gonna spend all this time preparation for lessons if I know they're gonna use it.
Mm-hmm.
Now they don't have to be no Liberace or anything,
Mm-hmm.
and play all over the world, make a zillion dollars, but it would be more rewarding to me.
I mean, have you thought about like doing like YouTube videos, like like what?
No, I have no interest in that, and I'll tell you why. I that's cool that these people are doing that.
Yeah.
Like, and you can take shortcuts because I use it too.
Mhm.
They'll teach you how to play Clair de Lune, right? And so you see like a pair of hands showing you, where to put your fingers, and that's all fine and dandy. It speeds up the process.
Mhm.
Problem is, everybody plays the classical piece. They don't use the same fingers. It's called suggested fingers. You know, when you get those piano books and you see like the numbers on top of the notes, because everybody's hand sizes are different.
Right.
So it's called suggested fingers. So if you got a guy on a video teaching a certain way, that's just according to whatever his finger pattern is or whatever. And that may work for some people, but it may not work for everybody. So just food for thought.
Yeah.
And I just can't see doing that. I'm from the old school. I like teaching one-on-one when I do, which isn't often.
Yeah. So is that what the conservatory, like what conservatories are like? Or?
Yeah, the conservatories, well, I went to San Francisco Conservatory.
Ah.
Just right after high school. See, I graduated, I was 17 when I graduated, that's kind of early.
Yeah.
Because of traveling a lot. So the way it worked out, I got to graduate early. And I did that student teaching for 2 years at my old junior high school as an assistant. And within that 2-year period, like I stated, I knew I wasn't going to want to be a teacher for the rest of my life. Not at no 19 years old. And then when I got the scholarship for the conservatory at 19, my life took a different direction. And I went there for about a year. And then where my life really changed, you ever heard of Bumps Blackwell?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if you mentioned.
He's Little Richard's manager.
Right,
he was
right,
Little
you
Richard's
mentioned,
manager.
yeah.
He went on to become my teacher.
Right.
And I got to do more study with him than I would have at the conservatory anyway. But answering your question about the conservatory, it's not a college like, say, a university or state college. Conservatories focus mostly on music, like preparing a person for a career in music, like the opera or symphony, or something like that. And you have to do extensive practice, sort of like that movie Fame. Did you ever see that movie Fame?
Yeah, I remember.
With a young, was it Debbie Allen? I think was the actress in that. Or Irene Cara was one of those actresses. So it's intense training every day. You're spending hours at this school. Right. You're learning stuff that you probably will never use anyway, but they just teach it to you because it broadens the mind, so you know, like solfege.
Sounds familiar.
I'll explain what that is. Let me play Mary Had a Little Lamb, just playing. Now, when you hear Mary Had a Little Lamb, that's pretty basic, right? Now, solfege, instead of using the words Mary had a little lamb, you're using the syllables do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Oh, really?
And I'll do it in slow motion, starting with a middle C. That's do.
Okay.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Right.
And the bottom and the top note are the same. The pitch, can you hear it? So when you're doing
that like, harmonics or
no, that's just the name of the notes.
Okay.
Now the first note is do, do, re, mi. So when you do Mary Had a Little Lamb, it starts on the third note. Mi, re, do, re, mi, 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 re, 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 mi, sol, sol.
Oh my goodness.
See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do, re, mi, fa, sol.
Wow.
That's a primitive version of solfege. The movie with Julie Andrews, Sound of Music. You remember that scene when she was teaching those kids? Do, do, mi, mi, re, re, re. That was solfege. So she had to teach those kids solfege first, and then one of the kids said, well, this isn't fun just doing the solfege. And Julie was telling them that you have to start with the basics.
Right.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Then you change it from solfege to the words. Mary had a little lamb. See? Missed a note there, but that gives you an idea.
Yeah.
And now that's very crude, but they get into that tricky stuff with solfege, with the flats and the sharps. So like if there was a mi, you have to call it mi flat, or sol flat, or T flat, something like that. Whatever song. They used to get these little choir books, like these little mini choir books.
It's like a primer.
Yeah, and you would be doing these songs in solfege, and your brain would be fried.
I'm already kind of like, this is
Trying
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was just Mary Had a Little Lamb. Now, just
I know.
imagine doing a song,
Yeah.
I mean, they give you time to prepare for it, but see, that just, you never really use it, but it's good to know it under your belt. Because, like, in popular music, it's just a lot of chords and scales and playing by ear. It's stuff like that. So they're not going to bother with solfege, and they're not going to bother with theory and all that stuff,
I think some musicians are probably up on theory, but But
they don't use it in the world of popular music, see.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about popular music, when I want to teach somebody, you have to disregard all of your classical training. You really do, because the principles don't apply
to popular music.
Popular music.
Because popular music is to be sold, really.
Yeah, they're out to just, it's just
yeah.
a chorus and it's like a verse and a chorus, and the chorus is called the hook.
Right.
Like that 9 to 5 song.
Right.
It goes something like this.
Parton.
See, that's the verse, and then when you get to this part,
right,
that's the hook or the chorus. And that's the part that everybody can identify. Every time the song goes back to that chorus part, It's food for thought. But that's what they do.
I think like contemporary music, it also isn't like, it doesn't seem to have the same like harmony or melody, or it's like the hooks aren't even that good anymore.
No, it doesn't have. But see, that's the thing. It's not as well. Let me give you a quick brief history here, and then I'll ask you some questions about you.
Sure.
You may have heard this. There's basically 5 periods in music history. It started with the medieval period around, say, 1300.
Really? It started? I mean, what about the Gregorian
Well,
chants?
I'm leading up to that.
Okay.
And so the medieval period probably had like the Gregorian chants and all of the chants around. I'm just giving you a flyover.
Okay.
I'm not zeroing
I'm
in.
like,
It's just a
I
flyover.
think-
So they have what was called the medieval period, and around 1450 they have what was called the Renaissance era, from about 1450 to 1600, around there. And it was mostly chants, and of course they had music way before that. But the most 5 known periods is the medieval period, the Renaissance period, and they have what was called the Baroque era.
Right.
That was around the time when the people like Bach were coming on the scene. I'll do a little bit of Bach for it.
Wow.
This is called Prelude in C. Isn't that beautiful?
It is. Is that hard to do?
Yeah, it is. There's a degree of difficulty with it. But here the repetitions, that do-dee-dee-dee-dee. That was how Bach's music was. It was very repetitive,
And this is like very soothing, I think, for like the crises of the time. That's probably good. Like Vivaldi's.
That
Four
was
Seasons.
their music of the era. That Baroque era, when they started having classical music come on the scene.
I think it's actually orchestral music.
They had it. Yeah, it was like some.
I think there's actually technical, because I was listening to a audio book about it's really orchestral music, like apparently classical music isn't.
Well, it was like a more primitive version. It wasn't like Tannhauser or anything like that at that time, not yet. And then after the Baroque era, they had what was called the classical period. That's when Beethoven and Mozart and all those guys started popping up on the scene. And there was no such thing as popular music in those days.
It was the popular music.
That was
that was their pop. Yeah.
And history says that Franz Liszt was the first pianist to ever play the piano in public with a side profile. I saw the Liberace documentary about the history of Franz Liszt. You know how you go to a concert and you see a pianist and you see the side view and you can see the keys. Prior to that, it was they either had their back to the audience and you saw just the back of their head, or the front of the piano where you see their face but you couldn't see the keys. By the time Franz Liszt came on the scene, he put the piano sideways so you could see not only the profile but some of the keys. That's where that generic version. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
So we get back to the classical era, around 1600 or whatever, around there, and all that music is like there's a complexity about it, like that song I just did, or any of the classical pieces, whether they're slow. Do you know this song?
Is that Debussy or?
No, this is Chopin. Perfect with the Castle. This is called the Prelude in E minor. Have you ever heard it?
Oh yeah. That's a.
Usually these days now they just put classical music on the cartoons, like the Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Right. That's how people know stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this definitely sounds like sad movie.
Yeah,
music,
those World War II pictures,
Right.
That's kind of where classical music ended up.
Yeah, and I remember in the 80s, it was Vivaldi, Four Seasons. That
Yeah,
was
they used his music a lot.
always, yeah.
They even had it on that cop show of the past with David Crusoe. NYPD Blue, I think, was the name of it.
Yeah, I remember that show. But
Here's the conclusion. Isn't it pretty?
it is, yeah.
I'll do it for you. People think it stops at that note, but there's a couple more notes.
And then
after
people
that.
start clapping.
Yeah, and then they don't
Ah!
realize there's a few more notes.
Right.
But to conclude this illustration, so at the classical era, it led to the Romantic era around 1900. They had the old Negro spirituals around that time. And it didn't help when Louis Armstrong burst on the scene like 1910.
Why?
With the jazz, because
yeah,
popular
yeah.
music was coming in,
Right.
and people were able to really dance to that music. They couldn't dance to that old classical stuff.
Right.
Times were changing.
Right.
And then, of course, eventually the big band era came around 1930, 1940. They had Harry James, they had Glenn Miller, and people were just really cut loose. But then that all changed when rock and roll burst on the scene around the early 50s.
Yeah, right.
And what was interesting about that, getting back to that hook, it was just a simple verse and then a little hook.
Wow. Yeah.
And those kids ate that up. It put a lot of those big band musicians out of work because they, like when you watch Duke Ellington, all those guys, they had like 20-piece orchestras.
Right.
They were all going across the country and kids were dancing. But, club owners, they save money. They don't have to pay 16-piece orchestra or something like that.
Right.
And when rock and roll came out, that changed everything. First was Louis Armstrong with the jazz. He like cracked that door wide open for everybody else to get in there. Miles Davis and all those other people in the past you may have heard of. And then music just was evolving. So when rock and roll came out, it was Little Richard, Tutti Frutti, and just those little simple songs. And those kids were just eating up. Bill Haley in the comments, Buddy Holly.
Well,
You
it
know,
makes me think it's almost like they hacked the human brain.
I don't know. Just somebody came up with it and it worked. And then by the time Elvis came out,
Right.
everybody lost their mind.
Right. That and the Beatles.
Yeah, and then the
Right.
Beatles came up with that British Invasion, and they had the Stones, and they had
Led Zeppelin.
oh, but even before that, I mean, the Turtles and the Animals, and and it just kind of changed. But see, and it's been like that ever since. Ever since the 1900s, music started really changing, and it's fun because there's a degree of simplicity about that music.
I think it's become too simple. I've got to say.
But that's
like
what
the
makes
past-
it work. Is because you don't want to be listening to this intense Mozart or whatever. You want to just have fun. The kids just want to dance. They don't care if you're conservatory educated. They just, like those record producers, they just want to just hear a song. Yeah, baby, we can sell this and make dolls out of it and everything. And
Well, I gotta say though, I mean, recently, when I go to see go to a dance club or whatever, like it is so simple.
that's what they want. That's what club
I guess
owners want.
so,
Even when you go to
yeah.
Vegas, I used to play in Vegas. They're not going to shell out money like they did in the old days. They just want, hey, kid, can you play? They don't care about your background. They don't care about your degree. They just want to know, can you play? We want you to play Moon River. If I had a nickel for every time somebody asked me to play Moon River.
Which one should I ask you? How does? Okay, don't play it. How does Moon River go?
I'll play it for you. I'm not a singer.
I know. I've heard it. Oh, why do they choose that one all the time? Maybe because nobody else knows.
I think there's two main reasons. Probably because of that movie with Audrey Hepburn,
Huh.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh, I didn't like that movie.
Yeah, but they played that Moon River song a whole lot throughout
Why
that
did
film.
they like that? That's
Just whoever wrote that movie just chose that melody
But
at
there's
the
so many
time.
good other songs.
Yeah, but
I
you
mean,
know,
even Star Wars. Do you know how to play Star Wars? That's the only thing I got. Like I could do one. Oh, you got the Darth Vader theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
can't believe you got me doing this song.
Yeah, you chose them where we had to like change out the Moon River. We had to like
I'm gonna get back to
rid
Moon
of
River, but anyway, getting back to Moon River,
Uh-huh.
I guess whoever the composers were at the time that wrote
Mhm.
Breakfast at Tiffany's, they just chose that theme. It could have been Left My Heart in San Francisco, I suppose, but they
Right.
chose Moon River. And then the movie was a big hit in that
Mhm.
time period. I think people started associating with that. So to answer your question, that's probably why they choose Moon River. And now these days, you just go in any piano bar, there's always going to be someone, hey, you know Moon River? So, yeah.
I
So I must have played that song a zillion times in my life, you know.
What's the
And I don't
second?
get tired of it. It's
That's
a
cool.
beautiful song, but.
What's your the second most commonly asked for?
Oh, I left my heart in San Francisco.
Oh, really? I was
Yeah.
gonna say New York, New York.
No.
Like, yeah.
Listen to that. See?
I mean, I lived in San Francisco for many years, and I don't think I even heard that. I think it's like when people leave, they do that song, you know?
I'm gonna stop there. Well, if you go on Pier 39, you always hear that song.
Hmm.
The very young version of Tony Bennett doing that. That's the theme song at Pier 39 when you go through San Francisco. They're always playing that. You know, you hear like the outdoor speakers, and
Huh.
they play like maybe once an hour or something like that. You know.
Well, how about is there a piano version of Singing in the Rain?
Well, I've got a version. I don't know if there's a piano version.
Great.
Classical version. I'm having a hard time with these keys. They're not responding well enough.
Mm-hmm.
But that gives you an idea.
Yeah.
See, now getting back to the keys, yeah, the action on the keys are not quick enough when you want to really
Mm-hmm.
fly. But anyway, getting back to Moon River and I Left My Heart in San Francisco, those are like the most common songs.
Uh-huh.
And I like classical music,
Mhm.
like we were talking about, but it's like at the bottom of the totem pole these days. You go on a cruise ship, a hotel, nobody's going to come up and say, hey, I want to hear Claire de Lune.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not going to do that. They're going to want to hear, you know, some songs.
Uh-huh. Like Barry Manilow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Elton John.
Uh-huh. Right. Or Billy Joel.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that pretty?
So who's that?
It's Claire de Lune.
So that's a composer or?
Debussy is the composer.
Oh, okay.
This is Claire de Lune. Music reflected on the water.
So it's like impressionist music or something?
Yeah, that was
Like
kind of the
Monet.
style of Debussy, I guess, is the way to describe it.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Claire de Lune is probably the most popular, known
Hmm.
by the average person of his works, I would say.
You know,
by the average person.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about a person that's really into classical music.
Mm-hmm.
So I do an occasional classical piece, like if I'm in a piano bar setting, but I do the most familiar,
Mm-hmm.
like the Moonlight Sonata.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do a piece of it for you.
Yeah, because I can't remember. Oh, yeah.
You know, the
Right.
most familiar, see.
Yeah. It's almost like the beginning of Color My World by Chicago, I think.
It probably is. They probably borrowed that, you know.
I think so. Yeah. And this was, I think, was this in a movie, too? Was this like a theme song of a movie?
Probably.
Like-
All those old Chopin pieces and Beethoven, they always stick them in movies.
Right. Because they don't have to pay copyright, and it's so good.
It's
you know?
open to the public now.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody, so sad.
I know. Beautiful song, though.
It is cool, yeah. So it seems like this piano works better for like slow pieces.
Keyboards are normally for sustained tones, like when you watch a salsa group,
Mm.
you know, and they're doing something like this. Or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, keyboards are not designed for real playing.
Uh-huh.
So if you watch a Latin salsa band or something, you'll see they'll do a few notes, something like this. with that, you know.
So like, would like a harp, or like, I mean, what would be a contained instrument that would kind of emulate a piano, but without being as big as a piano?
Gosh, I guess a harp would probably be the closest thing.
Because that's
to
what a
organ.
piano is. It's a harp laid on its side, basically.
Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. The piano represents the entire orchestra, see, if you think
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
Whereas with an orchestra, they have an instrument that plays one note, one individual note, and you put these bodies of people together and you create the same thing that a piano would do all by itself.
Right.
But, you know, nowadays, people, like we were talking about, they just want easy listening music. And by the way, 40 minutes have already gone by.
Yeah,
Just
time
go
flies.
by. Yeah, it goes by real quick. So, that's what the music industry is about these days.
Right.
And it's just all about music and simplicity. They're not complex like the old days. Nobody's reading sheet music hardly, like
What do you think
Glenn
about
Miller and all.
like subliminals or playing music backwards and like messages and
I don't really think much of that, and I'll tell you why, because that's not the way the music was written. That just could be just a fluke when you play it backwards, and
Mhm.
I think it can just give people misinformation and stuff.
Yeah.
People wrote a song a certain way, and that's what people are going to remember. No one's going to want to hear Barry Manilow backwards anyway, so, you know, they just want simple music. Can the kids dance to it? Is it easy to learn with the hook?
Right.
And every song, when you have the hook, they can identify it, see?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
9 to 5, like I said, or any of those songs. I guess maybe Paul McCartney's little symphony he wrote a few years back might be some degree of complexity,
Mm.
but not like the masters, they call them,
Mhm.
stuff like that. That's just the way it is. I don't think it's ever going to change anymore, you know? Like, music is just, it's 2018. Some kid out in the Bronx is not going to listen to Brahms' Lullaby, you know? He's going to want to hear, he's going to want to hear Run DMC and, you know, that kind of stuff.
I mean, even that's old school, Run DMC.
Yeah, I know, but you know,
Right. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just using that as an
Right.
example. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's just the way it is, you know. And when I was at the conservatory, there were a few of us that rebelled, I admit.
Mhm.
I was one of them. I was a mild rebeller. Because they wanted us to do nothing but classical music.
Mm.
I'm like, they got piano bars out here, they got restaurants out here, because they used to send the students out to do these little concerts. They only paid like $50,
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
And I have a friend that used to practice Pagliacci. His name was John. I won't mention his last name in case he ever sees this. You'd be surprised how many people watch this show. But anyway, he was practicing Pagliacci, you know, Vesti la Juba and all those orchestral or operatic works.
Okay.
And he walked with me one day, you know, Asaph, I like this music, it's beautiful music, but I want to do some Sinatra, I want to do some other stuff. He'd do it in the opera style.
Uh-huh.
And he would just start breaking out with his popular stuff, and it sounded really good. His opera stuff sounded good too. But that's what I mean by rebellions, is people just, you know,
Yeah.
they just don't want to be doing Mozart all day long.
Well, nobody wants to lose all
You're
their
going to lose your
power.
audience, you know. I mean, when that stuff was, and this is what gets me about these conservatories and these universities, they act like that music is it. Like, that's all you have to do.
Mhm.
And then you get out there in a country bar, they want to hear Loretta Lynn, George Strait. They're not thinking about Beethoven. They're not going to be thinking about Vivaldi.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to dog on that music, but that's just the way it is.
Right. There's
If you
reality.
want a
You gotta
job-
be practical.
Yeah, like, so
Yeah.
I'll do like some Patsy Cline. Recognize it?
Yeah, yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll stop right there. So that gives you an idea.
Mhm.
You gotta, what I do is like, I try to give them all.
Great.
Then I
Yeah.
throw in a classical piece or two and then go back to the pop stuff, see? And that way you don't lose your audience.
Well, like I heard a friend of mine. She showed me there's like Metallica or heavy metal opera.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Or like, what's his name? Freddie Mercury, the group Queen.
Queen, uh-huh.
They did the Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, they did it punk style. It was pretty cool, I have to admit.
Oh yeah.
They might have added some stuff and edited some stuff, because you didn't have to edit
Masterpiece.
stuff, you know.
Yeah.
but,
Mhm.
you know, that's just the way it is. So anybody that ever says you have to do classical stuff, period, you're probably gonna have to get another job.
Right.
The only reason why Van Cliburn got away with it is because he was the first person to ever win the international piano competition when it was called the International Piano Competition when Shostakovich was still alive.
Mm-mm.
Who talks about Shostakovich anymore? Nobody.
Right. Except for radio stations. Classical
Yeah,
radio
they play
stations.
some old Shostakovich record like the New World Symphony or whatever.
I mean, if you're in New York City, you will, because I did hear his name a lot.
Oh, yeah,
on the
yeah,
radio.
but that's one radio station
Right.
compared to all them stations in New York.
True.
I've been there in New York too. They
Right.
got a zillion radio stations, and them classical guys are at the bottom of the totem pole. And they used to play that classical music like around 1 in the morning, 1 to like 4 in the morning when everybody's like half dead and asleep and all. But that's just the way it is, you know. It's just, I like classical music, but you probably have to get another job if you just want to do that.
Yeah.
Van Cliburn was one of the rare few exceptions because he won that. And he was the first person to ever win it, and then they put his name on it instead. So naturally, you're not going to have to necessarily get a second job. They called it the Van Cliburn Piano Competition every 4 years. They got his name tagged on there. He probably got some royalties out of that and whatever. But that doesn't happen often. It's very difficult to make a living as a true concert pianist these
Right.
days. It really is.
Yeah.
Because of the attention span of folks, you know.
Hmm.
Just food for thought. So, including Liberace, everybody goes into popular music because that's where the money is, you know, and then you can reach more people too. Let's face it, if you go to a country setting like Texas, hillbilly setting,
Mm-hmm.
they're not likely going to want to hear Shostakovich, but they will listen to Patsy Cline, they will listen to Marty Robbins.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I mean, so it's
That's
like,
called El Paso.
Yeah, it's like I mean, it's folk. It's American folk.
Yeah, folk music will work too.
That's folk. Oh wait, sounds familiar. I can't remember exactly what it is though.
That's called Dark Eyes. That's a Russian folk tune.
Okay, yeah.
That's called Dark Eyes. Yeah, those folk tunes will work.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the folk tunes of the 60s of Bob Dylan and
Right.
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Do you know any Irish?
Yes, I do.
It totally sounds like it. Yeah.
You know what the name is?
I'm not sure.
Putting on Coming to the Rye. I'll finish it. These keys are not working very well.
Mhm.
Coming through the Rye. is the
Yeah,
name of
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Definitely
that
had
just,
the Irish feel to it. Yeah.
does. And you watch Lawrence Welk or somebody, and they do like these little orchestral versions of these songs.
Uh-huh.
But folk songs are fun. They're fun to bring back to life. They can reach people.
Yeah.
And you just throw your folk tunes in, all the other songs in, just have fun. That's all. I when I play in public, I take it serious, but I don't take myself or that job serious. Like it's got to be this and that's it. No, I just get out there and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
If a kid walks up to me, they want to hear Chopsticks, I'll play it.
Who wrote Chopsticks?
Actually, that song came out around 1800. It was an actual composer
Huh.
that wrote just that basic melody, and since
Wow.
then,
Yeah.
everybody's taking their little take on it, you know.
Seriously, yeah.
But that's how it started. It just
Yeah.
Chopsticks.
So, like, when you say that you don't take it personally or whatever, like, how long did it take for you as a musician? I mean, would you call yourself a orchestral piano?
I consider myself a pianist who knows how to play classical music properly,
Mm-hmm.
but I will probably never have the title concert pianist tagged on me. I just consider myself a pianist.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like in the 60s, they had a slew of piano players like Roger Williams and all those people that were making a living on television. The Ed Sullivan Show, they were doing their thing, and it was fun.
Mm-hmm. So so if somebody had a regular show and they needed like David Letterman had that
Yeah.
guy Paul,
Paul
like you
Shaffer,
would be that guy.
I would be that guy.
Right.
Yeah, I could do that if I had to. Yeah.
That should be your next job.
Well, you never know. Maybe somebody will hire me to be on a talk show and play.
Yeah.
But it's just a big world out there, and so people like John, when we were at the conservatory, they just all saw that it's a big world because the teachers and the professors, they didn't want us to do nothing, no country, no Neil Diamond at the time, or he was breaking on the scene then.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, was he breaking on the scene. So my take on it is, you want to reach people, got to get in their world.
Do their music, yeah.
Their music, that's it. And I've come up with some piano versions of a lot of songs over the years and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure I'm not the only pianist that's ever done that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, Andrejka, let me ask you a few questions while we're on
Sure.
this show here, because we got about 15 minutes left. This just went by so quick. Now, are you from Missoula?
No, I grew up in New York City.
Oh,
in
we're from
Manhattan.
New York.
Manhattan, so.
Okay. Yeah, well, I have an auntie that, she's gone now. She lived in Brooklyn.
Uh-huh.
So, call it gangsta neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to pick on anybody, but yeah.
It can be, yeah. I mean, Brooklyn now is like popular.
Well, yeah, it
Brooklyn's
is
like
now, but I mean
hip
at the
now.
time, yeah,
I know,
yeah, there was a lot of, it was like gangsta, as they call it.
Right,
They don't
like the
say
mafiosos.
no, not the mafia, not that kind of gangsta.
Oh.
We talking the African American.
Uh-huh.
They don't say gangster, they say gangsta. It's slang.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's the way it was then.
Yeah.
So you grew up in New York,
Mhm.
pretty much?
Yeah.
Now, do you play any musical instruments or anything like that?
You know, I didn't. I wanted to. Like in junior high, they separated out the students.
Okay.
The ones that they thought were going to go to MIT, they got to take music. And then the ones.
You're still doing that, separate. You notice
Yeah.
music is always at the bottom of the totem pole
I think
in
that
the academic program?
the privileged kid. I mean, the kids that were selected for the future got to take music lessons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the kids that were weeded out
Mhm.
had to take gym class instead.
Gym class, yeah. Oh gosh, I wasn't a fan of gym class.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound inappropriate, but like at the end of the gym class, they used to make the boys shower stuff. I was not a fan of that.
Mhm.
I think that's an intimate thing that should be done in the privacy of your home.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about that. But see, fortunately, I lived almost across the street from the high school that I went to.
That's cool.
So I would go home and change my clothes and fresh. I'm not going to shower in front of a bunch of
Yeah.
high school kids. And they were bad anyway. Because we played this game called Splatterball when I was in high school. And it was one of those games like they'd take about 10 volleyballs and put it in the middle of the gym.
Oh, sort of like dodgeball?
Yeah, but this is called Splatterball, where you get your head.
That sounds violent.
Yeah, and the freshmen and seniors would be on one side of that big auditorium, and the sophomores and the juniors be on the other side. And when that coach blew that whistle, you run up there and grab a volleyball, and you run up to a certain line, and you just try to pick the guy off. You go for his head, his chest, just like war, just with volleyballs until there's the last person standing. Usually I was always one of the last ones because I was very quick, so they couldn't hit me unless there was like about 3 or 4 seniors double team me, and one throw this way, one throw that way, then they might get me. But it was like a war of volleyballs,
Wow.
and we did that game every Friday.
That would traumatize me.
And it was something when a senior could grip a ball with one hand. He's like 6 feet. And he's looking at Asaph like, I'm going to get you this time, kid. And he'd throw that ball as hard as he could. And I'd flip over. Because I could dive over or roll over at that time because I was so much younger then.
Right.
I could tolerate pain then. That was better than the pain I would have felt with that volleyball. I got picked off a few times by some seniors. But see, my point is, we do all this stuff and then they go in there and they're cleaning up, and I just think that's inappropriate. So that's why I would just walk home.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, and clean up. It only take me about 5-10 minutes. But I'm sure high school has changed since 1976. And that's when I graduated, so. Because I was in high school from 72 to 76. And it was very primitive, no computers in. And
Right, yeah.
Just stuff, just sports,
And books. And music.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of my time in high school. I used to practice an awful lot, That's all I did when I was growing up. Practiced all the time.
So you've had this like tablecloth. Like, what's the sentimental quality of having the tablecloth?
Well, I don't know about sentimental. It's just the tablecloth was there 3.5 years ago when we did Asaph Cafe, so it's just a little signature piece, you know.
That's so cool.
This cloth has been on every Asaph Cafe I've ever done since 2014.
Wow. Oh, that's
So,
fun.
It's a signature thing, you know.
And so you had
I had those 2 brick walls, literally.
So
just
this
those 2 brick
was this
walls.
from
That
your-
table was in the middle.
Was this from your Lawrence Welk show, or what
Yeah,
made
it was
you
from
have
me,
that?
Lawrence Welk. Not the show, but the promo.
The promo.
Leading up to it.
Uh-huh.
I can show that to you when we're done. We're
Do
gonna
you
be done here in a
still
little bit.
do you still use? I mean, do you still
Every
use these?
once in a while, if we want to just go back in time,
Mm-hmm.
I'll set up the 2 walls and we'll just do an old-fashioned cafe.
Huh.
But we're so spoiled with this technology. People want to get on shows
Uh-huh.
and stuff
And so
like
how many
that.
people? What's the most amount of people that have watched like your shows? You think?
Well, back in 2015, I think it was, I did a 4th of July show.
Hmm.
Almost 700 people have viewed that on the computer.
Wow.
Not to mention the people that have watched it at the time when we recorded it.
What do you think made it? Like.
Oh, that was a funny show because I had like a bunch of people here.
Uh huh.
There was one lady, it was her birthday. It was her birthday. It happened to be on, 4th of July. So we had a birthday 4th of July cafe with her neighbor at the time. And
Well, that's cool.
it was like having the Odd Couple, Tony Randall and Jack Klugman on. And they were just so funny, these 2 ladies. And they were cutting up with their jokes and everything. And
Uh-huh.
I think that's probably why more people watched it.
That's cool. So do people are people channel surfing and they?
Yeah, I've had
they
that
just
happen.
get-
And some
yeah.
people actually tune in, like Professor Robert Green at the university. He and his wife watch this show every week.
Huh.
They started watching it from the time they appeared on this show about a year or so ago. They just started watching it chronologically to catch up.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, like, there's been a few times I've taken a hiatus for a month or 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll get an email, when are you gonna start doing that cafe?
Wow.
And other people, like one day, this senior citizen drove up his car. Hey, kid, you're pretty good on that cafe. I was like, thank you, sir.
Oh wow.
You know, I've had that happen. And another middle-aged lady walked up to me one time, and she says, young man, I have to tell you, I have never laughed so much as when I watch your show. I was like, thank you, ma'am.
That is so cool.
Because we've had some really funny topics over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Like one time we had a guest on, and the question was, if you could be a superhero, who would you be? And I have a co-host usually. He's not here today.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was gonna pick Superman like the other macho guys. He chose Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
Oh, I just about died.
Uh-huh.
It took everything in me to keep from laughing on camera. But this guy wanted to be Wonder Woman, so we started talking about Wonder Woman's attributes, and it just got funnier and funnier and funnier. So that's what it is. People they just come on. They talk about their dogs, cats, and everything else, and their hobbies and movies, and it's just a fun. You know, I'm not here to convert nobody or anything. They just want to just talk. They'll talk about their grandkids. I've had families on there. Like I've had a father on his show with his 2 children.
Huh.
So they chose the Green Hornet and Kato for their backdrop.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
You know, that's what kids would do. You know, stuff
Right,
like that.
for sure.
And it's just fun. It's just a fun getaway family, just silly thing, impromptu. You know.
And it's
Stuff
kind
like
of a reminder.
Yeah, it's
you
just
know,
an impromptu
to
show.
like reminder to just have a conversation. And
Yeah,
chill
and people,
out.
yeah, and I didn't do a lot of playing today, but most people, depending on how many people, they'll play songs, we'll play Name That Tune, all that stuff. Well, here, let's play a couple of tunes for you. We're talking about modern stuff. I'm not gonna tell you the name of the song.
Do Metallica. Oh, I know. Painted Black, Rolling Stones.
Yeah. A little classical version I
So
created.
you created that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, this is my own personal version.
Yeah, man.
I can't do it like I really want to.
Yeah, the keys are too slow.
They're too slow.
Get some brake fluid in them.
Probably. And the conclusion.
Yeah. people hire you for like, you know?
Yeah, they do. I get hired
birthdays?
for
Yeah,
weddings and all that.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah. That's a little classical version of Painted Black. Here's another song.
Oh, I know this song. It's not Genesis. It's from the 80s though.
You're close.
Ah! It's beyond me. What is it?
Law and Order. That's the theme of Law and Order. I'll do it again.
Okay, okay. Thing is, I didn't watch it a whole lot.
SVU.
Yeah.
Now you recognize it?
I mean, I recognized it. I just couldn't remember that it was Law
I'm
and
gonna
Order.
stop on that note. Yeah, it's the theme of Law and Order. SVU, Special Victims Unit. Yeah, Law and Order. Or like, here's another one. See if you know this one.
Because if it's a TV show, I might not know
It is.
Yeah. It's a mystery show.
Yes, you're close. Diagnosis Murder with Dick Van Dyke. Do you remember that?
You know, I never watched it,
Diagnosis
but I
Murder.
could tell that was a mystery.
Yeah, that's
I mean, it just
that's
had
the theme song. Yeah, they said that mystery.
Yeah, like what is? How do you break that down into?
These
like,
are just my little versions of these songs. There's a
Right.
trick to
I think
picking
so.
songs up by ear. It's based
Yeah,
on chords and
uh-huh.
scales. You have to put the classical stuff aside.
Mhm.
You have to have an extensive knowledge of chords and scales because like there's a universal principle with popular music. So when you know your scales very well, it's easier to pick it out.
The thing is, though, I could tell that was a mystery theme song.
Yeah, that's
and,
it.
I mean, and when you did the Irish one, that also was really distinctive. Like, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
there's a
that-
distinctive, there's a universal principle, see?
Yeah, I guess patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally like that questioning, you know.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty? Those chords. Yeah,
Yeah.
Diagnosis Murder. So that's with Dick Van Dyke, Diagnosis Murder. And that's a pretty cool show, I have to admit,
I'll have to
for a
take a
mystery.
look.
Yeah,
I don't-
it's kind of old now, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I don't think Dick Van
I
Dyke
love
is
like
active
Sherlock
anymore.
Holmes, so I do like.
Yeah, it kind of fits in that category. He plays this doctor that gets into these mysteries, solving murders and stuff
Yeah.
because he's a surgeon.
Right.
So
I
that's
mean,
the angle, you know.
prime.
Yeah, he's got
Right.
to like figure out why this man died, and
Mhm.
then the bad guys are always trying to get him because he's always solving these murders in a hospital.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right.
So whoever created that show just had a pretty good imagination, you know, pretty
Yeah.
wild imagination. But there's just so many fun. I will do one more TV show. Tell me if you know this one. I haven't done it in a while.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I mean, it sounds like another mystery show.
And here's the conclusion.
But I don't know. It's not familiar.
June Lockhart, that's a hint.
Hmm.
Dr. Smith. Warning, warning,
Oh,
danger.
oh.
That's the theme of Lost in Space.
You know, I never watched that show either.
Really?
Yeah, that was before my time.
Well, that's the theme of Lost in Space with June Lockhart.
Huh.
And a lot of those TV theme songs are a lot of fun. You know, you pick them out and you learn them. They're a lot of fun. I'll show you one last final thing, and then we'll have to sign off right here. You know, when I was doing the scales, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Mhm.
Now, suppose you did that same thing in chord form. Listen for the bottom note. Hear it?
Okay.
Can you hear it?
Yes, I think so.
And when you do all those in chord form,
Huh.
that's how you learn how to play by ear. You have to develop that, and then your inner ear starts working, and you know what key you're in. You know what notes used. That's a generic version.
Well, I've heard that the better you hear, the better you
Yeah,
learn.
they have ear training courses, and you always listen for the bottom note. Your inner ear wants to listen to the top note. I'll do it again. You hear this note?
Right,
You tend to
yeah.
want to hear that, see?
Yeah, the percussion.
And that's incorrect. You have to listen for the bottom note.
Wow. It's more
Can you hear it?
subtle.
Well, that's how you learn, see? And those are little tricks, and it gets a little bit more complex, but
That's
it
why
takes
you
a
went to the
lot.
conservatory.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice, yeah. And they really drill you with those, so that if you want to be a composer in particular, you can hear. Just develop that inner ear, so you play by ear, or you're in a piano bar, at least you know what you're doing. And I'm the type of person, I was able to figure out like Painted Black and Lost in Space, and you know, that's kind of fun when you play in a hotel. Hey, that's Lost in Space. What are you doing
Right.
playing that here?
That
See,
is
then
cool.
and you reach your audience that way.
Totally.
All right, young lady, have any final words? Because we're totally out of time.
Oh, well,
I would have
thank
liked to ask more questions, so if we ever do another taping, some people stay, you know, because they have so much fun, they do 2 shows in one setting.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how much time you have, but if you're ever on this again, you're more than welcome anytime.
Well, thank you.
You have any final words you want to say?
Thank you for watching and sending all the best.
All right, and I am Asaph Cafe, and we have Andrejka here, and that's it, Andrejka? Yeah. Sounds like Sam Drucker.
No, Andrejka.
Yeah, I know. That's a joke, you know. Remember Green Acres?
Vaguely. Yes, is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah, this is
I
the Green
remember,
Acres.
yeah.
They had a guy named Sam Drucker. Never mind, it was a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch that show when I was a kid. You know, they don't even make television like they used to anymore.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Unless you watch MeTV and you can see all the shows of the past.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffersons, they're all running them now. Charlie's Angels, you know, and Leave It to Beaver. They're
So
all
It's
Gunsmoke.
It's called Me.
IMMY, Memorable Entertainment Television.
Oh, wow.
MeTV for sure. Yeah, it comes on
Okay.
channel 13.2 here in Missoula. And for 24 hours a day, they're showing every old TV show of the past you can think of.
Wow. I didn't
13.2.
know.
Yeah, you don't have to
Uh-huh.
have cable, and it's just plain old 13.2.
Uh-huh.
MeTV, and you'll see MeTV on the bottom. I was watching Gunsmoke before I came here today.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That must be the theme song.
Yeah, that's my feeble attempt at Gunsmoke.
Uh-huh. What was the one with Michael London? And when he was young, it was like Rawhide.
Michael Landon? No,
And
it was
what was it?
Bonanza, I think.
Bonanza, yeah. Right, there you go.
Short version.
Yeah.
And on that note, I am Asaph Adonai with the lovely Andrejka here. So thank you for being part of this show. Until our next show, Maranatha. Make yourself at home. I'll shut everything down,
Okay.
and I'll come back and talk to you.
Sure.